Well, why don't we get started, because we're going to reverse some orders here anyway. So just for respect of time for everybody who is here, I'm assuming Susanna's there. She's just having some phone technology issues, so I'm going to assume she's with us. So let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. We do not have a quorum yet, so we'll see if Jenny is able to make it here tonight in just a little bit. I do want to thank you, Susanna, you're here. I do want to just reverse order just a little bit with the second agenda item and the third agenda item. So we'll get to the minutes here in just a second. The second agenda item is on committee membership and participation. Wanted to let everybody know that Commissioner Jeff Miller turned in his resignation letter. I did see him out and about in the community, and it really just isn't anything other than he's really busy, right? Of course, all the commissioners are busy. Then he also has his own business and just a lot going on, and felt like his time maybe needed to be directed in other areas. So he was a very valued input and commitment to this committee. We will miss his guidance. But as you can see, we have a new face to the group. So everybody say hello to Commissioner Ken Mccool. He is going to be taking Commissioner Miller's place. So thank you for stepping up to the task. You don't know how crazy we can get, but we do appreciate it. So thanks for being here. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself to the group, if you don't mind.
Well, first, I'm super excited to get started and get to work with this group. I think there's a lot of valuable work that you guys do, and I'm excited to be involved with that. I'm Ken Mccool. I'm a commissioner for the town of Matthews. Lived in Matthews my whole life. Graduated from Providence High School in 2016. Went to broadcasting school. Did some media stuff. Now I'm a commissioner and have a small business. So really excited. I think I bring a fun and a different perspective on education, since not too long ago I was in that classroom, in an overcrowded high school. So I think I have a very cool perspective that I can bring to what we're doing. So super excited to get started.
Well, thank you. Oh, I just pushed the wrong button, and there I go. Okay, I'm back. I pushed the wrong button and I exited out of something. Okay, well, thank you for being here with us. I think we have time for this. I wrote the agenda before all this happened, but I do want us to just real quick give intros of ourselves to you, just so you know who you're talking with. So I guess I'll start. I'm Kristen. I have been living in Matthews for 20 years. I've been lucky enough to be the past vice chair of the Matthews Park and Rec Committee when we got the Greenway approved, as well as the Sportsplex. I'm very happy about both those gems for Matthews, very proud of both of those. And then just in January was voted in as the chair of this committee when our previous chair had to step down due to just career responsibilities. I was vice chair before. So oddly enough, I am probably the one non-educator in this group. I have a career in healthcare. I'm a registered dietitian and a board certified health coach, but I have a huge passion for just educational opportunities, and I have two children in the CMS system. I have a rising senior. Oh my gosh, that's hard for me to say. I have a rising senior at Butler, and I have a rising 7th grader at Crestdale. We have not always been part of the CMS system. We spent 6 years in a charter, so I kind of bring both those experiences to the group. Susanna, would you mind going next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Susanna White. I'm the vice chair. I've lived in Matthews for 4 years, and I have 2 little kids. I'm a trained teacher, elementary and ESL, but taking a break right now and staying at home. And I work primarily in charters in my life. So that's what I have. You can hear that at some point if my microphone is on, but sorry.
Thank you, Susanna. Joanna, can you go next?
Sure. Joanna Samitsi. I'm a high school biology teacher. I taught at Butler and Independence, and I now teach mostly for North Carolina virtual public schools so that I can be at home with my 5-year-old and 2-year-old, and just really active in the education community. And I have a lot of education policy background. So.
And she also serves as our awesome secretary. So she is the one who records every little tiny thing we say. Thank you, Joanna. Adam, can you go next?
Yeah, I'm Adam Brooks. I'm a native Charlottean, and I've been in Matthews for, I don't know, 20, 21 years. I'd have to check the tax records. I have sort of a mixed background where I work in technology, I work in corporate. I would say that I have worked in higher education. My backgrounds are kind of varied between charter experience, private experience, public experience, homeschool experience. Served on this committee, Economic Development Committee. I've served on a number of other sort of boards and initiatives with the town, and I've been around.
And I see Adam walking on the Greenway, but I'm out running.
Occasionally, yeah, she's running and I'm walking. That's how it works out.
That's where I see all my Matthews gang every time I'm on the Greenway. All right, Jenny, thank you for joining us. Just to give you a little recap, Commissioner Miller decided to resign his position membership on our committee, just really out of just responsibilities and duties elsewhere. And Commissioner Ken Mccool is going to join us. So we're just kind of doing some intros real quick, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Great. Well, thank you for stepping up, Mr. Mccool. I appreciate that. I'm Jenny Real. I've lived in Matthews for about 10 years now. I'm originally from New York. I have worked as a teacher in both Union County and CMS, and I am currently a 4th grade CMS teacher.
All right, thank you. Should we start the quiz now? Do you remember all of that?
I think I could do okay.
Okay, I'm going to assume that you know Becky. Becky, would you like to? I don't mean to ignore you. Would you like to do an intro? I'm assuming the two of you know each other.
All right, I think
I've never met her once in my whole life.
Yeah, I think I'm covered, but thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so we just flip-flopped our agenda items real quick just to make sure that everybody knew our new commissioner and that he knew us as well. So now we can go back. Becky, do you want to jump in? I'm sorry, I knew I was going to forget. Jump in for me.
Sure. So one other item that came up related to the board appointment was the bylaws for this group that stipulate that the town board appointee is currently a non-voting member. I can share my screen really quick. It's actually worded a little funny. Hindsight, not quite sure why it was worded this way. But how it's actually written is that the town board would appoint a commissioner to the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools Municipal Education Advisory Committee. That person would then serve on this committee as what's considered an ex officio member, and that ex officio member is not counted for quorum purposes and may not vote. And what the town board expressed last night was that they would like to see that changed so that the town board representative does become a voting member. That can also help with quorum purposes, Kristen, if we run into any issues. So how the process would work would be that this group would make a recommendation regarding whether or not to support the change to allow the town board representative to be a voting member and also be a part of what's considered the quorum. That recommendation would then go to the town board for final approval. So they're really just asking this board to consider that and make a recommendation. If this group supports it, then we can bring that updated bylaws to our board probably by the next meeting shouldn't be an issue whatsoever. So I'm really just looking for feedback, and if this group is comfortable with that, making a motion to make that change. Certainly, if you're not comfortable with it for any reason, happy to take those notes back to the board and then go from there.
And Becky, thank you for that. Just to clarify, so if we make that recommendation to take back to the board this evening, does that become effective this evening to where Commissioner McCool, okay, so we just make the recommendation, take it back, and it would become effective the May meeting?
You got it. Yep.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so I see she's back on mute, so nothing else to add with that. So I'll open that up to discussion. Oh, go ahead, Joanna.
Becky, is this protocol for all the other, how does this compare to other committees?
Yeah, so I would have to look at the specific bylaws for all the others, but I do know that on some other committees, the board member does serve in a voting position, and they are considered part of the quorum. So it is not unprecedented. I know on our Economic Development Advisory Committee, that is a voting position. So I think, if anything, this might be more of the outlier as opposed to the other way around. But don't quote me on that because I haven't pulled each set of bylaws, but I know it's not unusual.
I think for me, in my opinion, I think it's difficult to ask someone to dedicate their time and their guidance and their opinions and then not be able to be a voting member. I think it's hard to ask somebody to participate, but yet, oh, sorry, you don't get to be part of the vote. So I am fine with setting a motion that Commissioner McCool or any commissioner that then sits on this committee can be counted for quorum purposes and may vote. And Joanna, and I'm sorry, I'm going to pause for just a second. Joanna, could you also put in the minutes that we do have a quorum now, because when we started, we didn't have Jenny. So if you could make sure that we have that, thank you.
So Kristen, are you making a motion, or are we still discussing?
I'm making a motion that Commissioner McCool or any other commissioner who takes his place on this committee gets to be counted for quorum purposes and may vote.
Are we voting on the commissioner, or are we voting on the appointee?
You're voting on the appointees, so it will apply to whoever serves as the town board's appointee.
Right.
I just, before I go ahead.
Do we need to correct the verbiage of the proposal? Because it's not about the council member, it's about the appointee.
Well, it's about the commissioner appointee though, right? Because any one of us are considered appointees, correct? So I don't know if we need to reword that, Becky, but I guess my motion stands as I feel that any appointee in the commissioner seat should be counted as quorum and able to vote. But I think, Joanna, I think you had I do want to remind everybody, because this has come up in the past when we get ready to discuss a vote, is people feel uncomfortable discussing it and they tend to hold back. But please, voice your opinions. I mean, we're all adults here and we like to hear everybody, and everybody's opinions sway everybody else's opinions. So that group discussion really is powerful. So please don't hesitate.
So from a perspective, we would want a second on the motion first, and then open it up for discussion before taking a vote. So Adam, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you second the?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Thanks, Becky. So now we can open it up for discussion. I get ahead of myself sometimes.
So I'm just curious, and Ken, this is nothing personal, but I wonder about like influence of like, I think sometimes it can feel that there might be an agenda for I guess I'm just going to speak really, like, I think that Commissioner Miller sometimes had some really strong feelings about things that I felt that because he wasn't a voting member, he was there to like share information with us, not necessarily like sway us or convince us to like have his feelings. And I just am personally worried that I or others might feel differently if it feels like there's an outside agenda coming in. I felt like this board has always not had necessarily an agenda, and I just want to raise that concern that I think it would feel differently, and I'll say it does feel differently. It feels like the town is telling us, like, do this particular thing, and that feels like an outside agenda, whereas I thought we were brought on as a very nonpartisan, non-agenda driven group. So I don't have enough experience being on other town committees to know like how that like sway is, but that's my concern.
Well, and Joanna, I'm glad that you mentioned that because it's a very good point. The bylaws are written that we are an advisory committee to the town board. But now we have a town board, or we might have a town board member on the committee who would then be voting, which makes it not an advisory board really to the town board. Like, it does confuse things a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you brought that up because now I'm sort of confused between, well, are we an advisory board to the, are we an advisory committee to the board, or now is the board? Yeah, it does kind of get a little fuzzy there.
Yeah, guys, I'll be honest. I think that in this case, I would have a tendency to say that it's no other member of this committee is an elected representative, and that even if it's one sort of vote, it is a vote that is backed as an elected representative. I think that I don't think it's necessary. I honestly would just vote against it.
Okay, Jenny, I think you raised a finger, so I think you wanted to say something. I'm not sure what the finger,
Yeah.
I don't know if that was in an agreement. I don't have all my Zoom like movements down yet.
So I get what Joanna's saying, and I do agree. Like, I think all the commissioners are very opinionated, especially in regards to education. But I think that's, everybody in the community, there's a lot of passion there. So I do understand what you're saying, but I'm thinking back to like some of those moments where, we did listen to Commissioner Miller. And even though, he was expressing his opinions very strongly, that doesn't mean we always agreed with him. And, I'm not necessarily opposed to offering another vote. I almost think that there's a benefit too, like having Mr. Mccool serve on both, because I feel like, it's just more, you're getting the insider information from the other meetings as well. But, just because he's expressing himself or what his committee has been discussing, that doesn't mean we always have to agree with him either. Like, it's just one vote. And, if all of us disagree or if some of us agree, like, I just feel like it's just one vote.
I'm kind of with you, Jenny. I feel very similar. I think if we, Mr. Mccool, I think if we had known you maybe a little bit longer and we kind of like knew you a little bit better, maybe that would make the decision easier. But I agree with Kristen with what you said about someone, spending time on the committee and not getting a vote. But I think I would like to keep it kind of separate from the town board.
I am just going to correct something. You're not voting on a specific person or commissioner. This is a change to the bylaw. So, if someone else gets appointed to this in a year, that bylaw is still there. This isn't just based on me or Commissioner Miller or whoever will come after me. This is a flat bylaw that'll go into the bylaws for the future. So you're not voting on a personality, you're voting on that.
Yeah, I agree. It's not the person, it's the precedent that it sets and the potential for future impact. So this is a small committee. So I think that one elected, vote is still an elected vote of a small number. So I believe for this committee to remain impartial, I think that we don't need to mix the streams in that case.
So Becky or Commissioner Mccool, can either one of you give us a little insight as to maybe the town board's reason for suggesting it be, like, give us some, like, why all of a sudden, I think we've been in here 2 years now, and now they're suggesting a change in the bylaws. Can you give us a little bit of their discussion on why they're suggesting it? That might help us too.
Ken, have you been privy to any conversations?
I mean, the only conversation is what our board had last night, and they felt it would be helpful to have the elected leader have a vote and a say in things to kind of keep things moving and provide more of a direction for the group. I haven't had specific conversations with commissioners on everything. It just came up after my appointment last night. So you might have a better perspective than I from what we talked about.
Yeah, so it came up in the middle of the town board meeting tonight, so it was not something that I was briefed on prior to know that it was coming. Can certainly ask for more feedback for this group. I think that's fair. In separate conversations I had with Commissioner Miller, it's not really fair for me to talk for him, but I think sometimes, kind of to Kristen, he did feel like, hey, I'm here and, putting in a lot of time and then to not have a vote. But I think there's also a lot of really fair commentary on the other side of, at the end of the day, it is one vote, and this group does try to stay very nonpartisan and very impartial. So, I can personally, I can kind of see both sides of it, where, the group is certainly free to disagree with a commissioner, whether they are in a voting capacity or voting capacity. I'm not sure if that fully changes this group's ability to disagree, but I understand if the group maybe feels like that maybe adds a layer. I can understand that too. So in fairness, it'll delay things, obviously, which is okay. But, I think between Commissioner Mccool and myself, we can definitely go back and say, hey, can we get some more information? I can also do a little bit more research. My direct experience is limited to Economic Development Advisory Committee. And I'll say on that group, certainly the viewpoint of the commissioner that serves on it is really valued because they have a lot of insight into what's going on or what the preferences are. So they bring a lot of value to the conversation. But I certainly feel like it's an independent thinking group, and if they want to go in a different direction from the commissioner, I haven't gotten the sense in that group that that's been something that they haven't felt able to do under that dynamic. So, but we can do some research, and if it helps this group to know, these 3 do it this way and these 4 are organized this way, if having a little bit more information would be helpful, certainly happy to bring that back as well.
Thanks, Becky. I don't know for me if it matters so much as how other groups do it as to how we as a group feel comfortable doing it. I just wasn't sure if there was any discussion on why the board felt like they wanted to change the bylaws for us, particularly right now. I guess gosh, I don't know. I think I'm really torn in currently. I think that the point I guess was that a commissioner could provide us direction and guidance, which I think that happens anyway, whether it's a voting member or not. We definitely, or at least Commissioner Miller, I don't feel like he ever hesitated to give us recommendations or guidance, and we certainly asked for it as well. We said, hey, what's your thought on this? Or hey, can you give us some insight? So I think that's always going to be there, voting or not, and we definitely appreciate that. So I think it's just a matter of, Adam, I see your comment in the chat, whether or not we want to keep this as a true community committee without the feeling, perhaps, of politics or political agendas, whether that's true or not, it's just the feeling, right, of a political agenda. I'm also starting to think through some of the challenges, I guess, we had last year with trying to collect data from some of our schools. And I know my schools were very reluctant to do that. And the relationship just was not there. And that's one of the things that I would like to see changed, is that we have a better relationship with schools. So I don't know if having a voting elected official or not makes that easier or harder. Not sure on that one, but I don't know. More discussion? I guess I don't know where I feel like I stand at the moment, actually.
Becky, I think what I'm a little bit confused on is our committee being asked to make a recommendation back to the board. It feels a little like I'm going to ask my right hand to tell my left hand to do something. Like that to me is just, that's a precedent that I'm uncomfortable with. Like I felt like this committee from the beginning was very much, well, what does this committee see as the agenda? What does this committee? So I'm just wondering like how this changes the relationship between this committee and the town. Is this like the start of the town wanting to tell this committee what to do in terms of agenda? Is this the start of, and is that how the other committees work? Like, I just don't know. And it makes me a little uncomfortable of like, when we first came on, there was a very contentious issue about, town sponsored charter schools. And I had so much confidence in this committee because it wasn't the town commissioners telling us, you have to investigate this and you have to do this, and this is what the committee is charged with doing. This committee interpreted it itself. And, I'm just trying to understand like how this changes the relationship, because this is a new interaction with the town board.
So, from my perspective, I'm not reading that much into it. Again, I haven't been privy to any other conversations, but when the town board has created a committee of any type in the past, the town board sets that first set of bylaws. And then bylaws tend to evolve over time as needs change, as things change. And so the suggestion to change the bylaws can come from either direction. So this group could take a look at the bylaws and say, we want to make X change, and then make that recommendation of the town board. The town board is always going to have the final sign off on it. So in that direction, this committee would make the recommendation, the town board would sign off on it. In this scenario, it just happens to be flowing the other way, where in order to make the commissioner a voting member, it requires a change to the bylaws. So the town board was just saying, hey, please take a look at the bylaws. We think we would like to see this change. Wanted to make sure that there was a recommendation, that they didn't just unilaterally say, hey, we're making this change. To get that feedback, ideally get that endorsement from this group before they went ahead and approved it. So it's always going to be a two-way street. It just happens to be flowing in that direction in this instance.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
I guess I can add some perspective. As being a commissioner, I'd like to have a vote in this. I think, again, we bring a different perspective. I think the political agendas, I don't think that's necessarily, at least personally, it's not going to be a thing for me. I just want to do what's right, and we're a non-part, like our commission is a nonpartisan group either, so it's not Republicans and Democrats fighting it out. It's it's always nonpartisan. It's always Matthews focused, and whoever it was, even anyone on our current board, I would be fairly comfortable with them having a vote, because I know they're not going to bring an agenda. I think they're going to bring the best for the town. But again, that's just my perspective.
So I'm looking at the time. I do like to try to move us along respectfully. At this point, Becky, do we vote? Can somebody do a substitute motion? Like, where are we at this point in the approved process of how things flow?
Sure. So if the group has decided that they don't want to take a vote tonight, somebody could make a substitute motion to pause on making a vote and proceed that way.
Or can somebody make a substitute motion, literally?
Sure, yeah. If you are ready, if you're ready to take action, whether it's, if it's on the original motion, you can vote on that. If you want to create a substitute motion to either say pause for more information or to decline to make this recommendation, then you would want a substitute motion with a second on whatever that is at that point.
So the current motion is to make the change. So we could, in theory, just take a vote, and that would either make the change or it would not make the change. Or we could make another proposal to say, ask for more information if we feel like we need more to make a proper decision.
Or you could make a substitute motion saying that you are declining to make the recommendation that the commissioner be a voting member.
I'm okay to make a recommendation that we decline the motion that they be a voting member.
So is that your substitute motion?
That's my substitute motion because for the reasons I've already stated.
Okay, so then we would need somebody to second that. Okay, so if we have no one seconding that, then the original motion stands, is that correct?
Correct.
All right.
Okay, so then our options are to vote on the, so to make sure everybody just understood what happened. So I set the original motion saying, yes, the appointee is going to be a member, voting member, and part of the quorum. Adam did a substitute motion saying, no, the appointee would not be counted as a voting member and a quorum. So in order to vote on Adam's substitute motion, somebody would need to second that. So since someone did not second that, then we are back to the original motion of the appointee being a voting member and part of the quorum. So we can, if we're ready to vote on that, we can vote on it. If we think we want more time to think about it, we can do that. So I think those are our two options, since we had a substitute motion that didn't get seconded. I think those are our two options. So if that does, kind of give me a thumbs up if you feel like you're ready to vote. Okay, so I don't see a thumbs up from Joanna. Do we need to discuss more?
Or you can vote, you can make a motion to delay and get more information from the board and then not take this up until your May meeting.
I guess for me, I feel like I don't know if there's any more info that the board could really give us. I mean, at this point, they just, other committees have voting member commissioners. I think they're just simply saying, hey, we want this person to be a voting. I guess I don't know if I feel like postponing this is going to give me any more information come May. But of course, I'm always open to hearing more from everybody else. To me, I don't think we're going to gain anything from waiting.
I do have just one more question. We originally had 3 positions that we needed to fill. Will we still be filling all 3 of those positions, or is the concept that this would take the place of one of those?
This is not intended to take one of those places.
So then our 9 committee member goes to a 10 committee member.
Yeah, we'll clean up the, whatever the recommendation is and whatever the final bylaws are meant to read, we'll make sure that it matches, but this is not intended to replace.
I'm just gonna reiterate, I'm okay with voting. Joanna, I heard what you said, but I thought some of your concerns were a little extreme. Like, I don't think that, having one voting commissioner is gonna, take control over this committee. Like, I feel like we're still going to have our voice. They could, even if Mr. Mccool or any commissioner, wanted to throw something out there, kind of steer us in one direction. Again, there's 9 of us and we all have voices as well. So I don't think that we're gonna necessarily be like controlled or taken over. So for that matter, I'm comfortable with voting.
Becky, does it matter that 10 would then be like, there's not a majority, like?
So your majority, if all 10 people are present, would be 6. If it's a split vote, then it's a failed vote.
Right.
Okay, so hearing no substitute motion. I'll give everybody a second to think on this, but hearing, I don't want to pressure, but hearing no substitute motion, I think we're ready to take a vote. So the original motion made was that the commissioner appointed to the committee would be an approved voting member and counted as part of the quorum. Okay, so that's what we're voting on. So all in favor? And opposed? Okay. So we have 4 to 1. Okay. And so Becky, you take that back to the board?
Yep, I'll take care of it. And sorry, I didn't realize that was going to be such a discussion. So apologies. Yeah, I'll work with our clerk and we'll get the draft bylaws put together. That will go to the board, should be in time for their second meeting in April. And once those are drafted, then I'll send a copy to this group just that you can see those, but it's a pretty simple change.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, good. No, that was a great discussion. Again, I really always want to encourage everybody to voice all their opinions and never hold back on any of that, no matter how long it takes us to discuss something. We can always push other agenda items back. I really do like for everybody to get all their concerns and opinions out on the table. So thank you for that. I do appreciate it. So then now we're going to go back. We kind of flip-flopped the order, but let's go back to the review and approval of the minutes. And I know, Joanna, you had questions in the, we had 2 blank spots in the beginning of those minutes because we were going so quickly that her fingers typing just couldn't quite keep up. And so can you tell us what you need for us to fill in on those spots?
Yeah. I have that we had a substitute motion to revisit the discussion about moving the time. I don't know why I have a blank here. Like, just the committee had a vote 4 to 1. I think that is what that would go.
Yeah, I think we voted on changing the time to 7 o'clock, and it was a vote of 4 to 1.
Okay, because this was like right as I was coming on during the vote, so the committee voted like.
Jay made the motion and Susanna seconded it.
Okay.
For that first one, okay.
And so then someone made a motion to discuss the time change again. So I don't know who.
Does anybody remember who that was? Becky?
Sorry, I'm trying to flip back and forth. So Joanna, I emailed you. I'm sorry if it must not have gone through. So I have Adam as reopening the discussion to discuss.
Okay.
So sorry, I'm looking at the email.
I might not have seen it.
It's okay. It's okay. So yeah, so Adam made the motion and Jay seconded to reopen the discussion.
Okay. Okay, I'll fix this and resend it. Do I need to fix it right now so we can vote on it, I guess?
We have at other times had to, like, say we ended up not with a quorum tonight, we would just hold off on these minutes and then put them on next month's agenda. So if you want to just do that, then these minutes plus the April minutes could be put on the May, just to keep it clean and all of that.
And I do want to add something, but I don't want to get in the way of your thought process typing right now. So tell me when you're ready.
I think I'm ready. Motion to reopen the discussion.
Okay, is everybody comfortable just reading this through right now so we can quickly, like, it looks like she fixed it all and then we could vote on it. Okay, so I'm good with how you just changed that. Has everybody else had a chance to read through this before I tell her to scroll to the bottom? I can't see all of you. So I'm hearing no opposition. So if you don't mind, Joanna, one of the things that I want to make sure is that all the items on the agenda are at least somehow mentioned in here. So after that last paragraph, but before the 8:03 adjournment, there was an agenda item to recommend next areas of focus, and we deferred that to this meeting due to time constraints. So if you could just add that way it's not like a agenda item just hanging out there.
Okay.
Areas of focus to the March meeting. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Oh yeah, sorry, April. Thanks for catching me on that one. Okay, so those were the only changes or additions that I wanted to make. Otherwise, I'm good with the rest of it. How's everybody else feeling?
I'm fine with it. So should we make a motion to approve the minutes?
Please, Adam.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. All in favor? And no opposition. Great. Okay. Thank you, Joanna, for doing a great job on that. As always, I appreciate it. Okay. So we are down now. Becky, could you give us a quick, so the school spreadsheet publishing, I think we said that it really hadn't gone out in the Matthews Mint Hill Weekly. We saw it in a few other places, and we were kind of questioning as to where else we could get it, whether we wanted to put it in the town messenger, back on Facebook, back on the website, if we were going to kind of wait until we cleaned it up, or I think you were going to check to see what else we were doing with it, if I recall.
Yeah, so it was in the town newsletter. I can't remember the month now, but it was in one of the versions. I think it was December. Adam also sent a link. It was in the Matthews Mint Hill Weekly in January.
Oh, great.
So they did pick that up. And then it had been on Facebook in December and was on the main page of our website at that time. I had a good conversation with our communications coordinator, and at this point, my recommendation would be to pause on trying to do much more promotion. The fact that it was picked up in a couple of places, I think, is a good thing. But just in kind of looking at the spreadsheet, and I think we're definitely hoping that over time, some of those cells are able to be filled in more as more schools contribute information. There are some columns that, in looking through it, I'm not sure that any school ended up responding to them. And so, could there be an executive decision that maybe to make it more digestible, some of those columns might be hidden for now, and maybe as this thing gets some legs, if those become questions to ask again. I think they're valuable questions, but if it's just empty cells, I'm not sure that it does a lot to convey it as a useful document for the viewing public. So, you know, she and I had some good conversations about, you know, do we list the schools on the main page of the school resource guide? So if somebody doesn't want to go through the trouble of downloading and they just want to have kind of a quick list of different schools, can we list them by grade? So there's then hyperlinks to those schools, or, you know, are there more things that we can do to the web page to make it more useful and beneficial as a landing spot for parents who might be interested that may not necessarily be that guide, that Excel document itself. So we would definitely be looking for input from this group and kind of what would you want to see. But that would be, I think, where I would want to see this group kind of put their direction and their attention, as opposed to paying for ads and publications to promote it, or reaching back out to other news organizations, considering it did get at least a little bit of legs here around the December, January timeframe.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think as we start talking about our recommended next areas of focus, that ties in with that. Like, what do we now, where do we want to go with the spreadsheet? Do we want to, you know, use Adam's demo to clean it up and get more usable data? Do we want to start adding preschools like Susanna recommended? Are we done with it? Do we want to move on to something else, right? So I think, in my opinion, you know, it's kind of, that flows nicely into our discussion with where do we want to go next, to be honest.
I would like to sort of talk a little bit about, you know, the demo that we did last session. And, you know, Ken, if you get a chance, if it was recorded, I don't know if you've seen it, but, you know, I was kind of demoing this idea of the adaptive form. One of the problems we've had, Becky kind of alluded to it, where you have inconsistencies in data formatting and you have inconsistencies in what fields were filled out. And part of that is that not all of that data applies to every school. And the process that was used was very concierge, right? So we were trying to do the relationship thing, which is awesome, but there really needs to be a profile approach where I build the relationship with the school sort of owns putting the information in. The form that we use brings it in and validates it so that as many fields as are applicable to the school are collected and inputted by the user, and then we clean the data up a little bit if we see things that don't really match up with the expected use or whatever. The Google form that I showed that was using the adaptive approach gets the data there, but it doesn't give some of the functionality that what I was hearing is the ability of a school to save it, come back to it, things like that. It's a lot of information to fill out in one sitting. That Google form is just a proof of concept. It's a mock-up. An ideal, more ideal type of approach would be we'd either have to find a vendor or we'd have to pay a vendor to provide that sort of a school profile type of interface that does that for us. I think if we could do that, then the whole process would make a lot more sense, and the data would be a lot more valid, and the end user experience, because more of it would be there, would be better. So this was a really good sort of first run at it, but we need to decide that if we're going to do this and keep doing it, then I think we need to really put the architecture in place to make it a, you know, worthwhile. Otherwise, I don't think using the same model we've been using is going to get us a significantly better end result.
Agreed, Adam. Anybody else?
I just have a quick question. When you, maybe someone can bring me up to speed on this. Is this a form for the schools to individually fill out, or is this for community members? I'm again, my first day on the job here, so just kind of want to maybe bring me up to speed on that just a little bit so I can have somewhat of a perspective.
Becky, I thought HR was going to onboard Ken to this role.
I mean, where's the training?
Our meeting ended at 10 p.m. last night, guys. So short time period.
That's why I was sending that email at 10 p.m. last night. I was like, hey guys, I was like, we got to put some constraints on the hours of the volunteers here. Yeah, it's a good question. So what the committee really focused on last year was trying to collect, just trying to figure out, hey, where are we, right? What are the educational opportunities for Matthews families and students? Let's look around not only the schools located in Matthews, but the schools in the surrounding area that Matthews students still go to, even if the school itself isn't in Matthews, and really try to collect information on, things like student to teacher ratio, capacity, right? Just all kinds of different things in regards to, hey, let's get kind of a profile, I guess, like Adam said, or kind of just a makeup or a feel of the school, just so we can see what are, we had lots of discussions about, parents looking at school opportunities and whether or not they really even knew what was out there. So if you had a student perhaps with a learning disability and you wanted to know maybe the options for that, or you just, every family has different dynamics of education opportunities that they're looking for in areas and focus that they're looking for. And we weren't quite sure that families in Matthews really even knew what was out there. I mean, us as parents were kind of like, oh, really? Never heard of that school before, right? So really just started collecting lists of schools in the area, put together questions we wanted to ask those schools that really are kind of already asked anyway by this, like the school report card data that goes out, and just put together sort of an Excel spreadsheet kind of form that we then sent out to the schools, asked to meet with them, met with them, told them a little bit about our purpose behind trying to get some information about them, really as a building a relationship between the town of Matthews and families. And just really trying to just kind of get an idea of all the different schools and what they offer, so that we could then publish that to the Matthews families, so that Matthews families knew really sort of what was out there for them. Just sort of getting a snapshot of all the educational opportunities, because it was we kind of discussed it and we were like, well, it's kind of hard to know what we want to influence if we don't even know what's out there. So that was sort of the basis of what we worked on last year.
Okay, that makes sense. And I heard the comment that there's maybe a struggle with getting the schools to answer back. What is that? What has been done to kind of mitigate that at all? I know it's tough. I mean, again, you guys, it was probably during COVID, so maybe there's a little bit of other stuff that teachers and principals.
Yeah, we got the data sent out. I don't even remember how, right before COVID, and then COVID happened. And our side of things, we had already collected all the data. So we were busy trying to get it cleaned up and in a format to publish. And the schools at that point, I mean, my goodness, they had their hands full for sure. So we were definitely not calling them, emailing them, and asking them for data when they clearly had higher priorities. But at that point, we had already gotten the data. So we were really working on trying to clean it up. How are we going to publish it? So we were working on the behind the scenes stuff at that point.
Okay. Thank you. It kind of brings me better up to speed to understand what we're chatting about.
Yes. Sorry about that. We introduced ourselves, but not what we were doing. So we'll get you up to speed. Okay, so thanks for that, Becky. If there's nothing else in regards to that, I want to move on to the new members and the interview that we conducted. So anything else on that, or can I move ahead? All right, good. So moving ahead, so at our last meeting, we voted to interview 3 out of 4 of the applications that we received. I sent emails out to those 3, and we heard back from 1 of them. So I didn't hear back from the other 2 that we had decided we were going to interview. So Susanna and Becky and I interviewed 1 person, and I think I can speak for the 3 of us when I say she completely blew us away, right? So we interviewed Jennifer, and a little bit about, I'll just kind of, I guess, summarize what we learned about her so that you guys can know. She has been a resident of Matthews for 15 years. She has been a teacher and an administrator of CMS in Union County. And of course taught in Mexico, or was an administrator in Mexico. COVID brought her back. One of the interesting things that she said about her experience in Mexico is that you sort of learn sometimes that the grass isn't always greener on the other side, right? So she learned kind of, really what we have here as far as educational opportunities. Let's see, she has great experience in kind of all kinds of levels of school. So high performing schools, Title I schools. She talked about she talked a lot about culturally responsible teaching, which was fascinating. She made this one comment that was just sort of like a bubble bursting, right? She was like, why is it that we have Black History Month or Women's Day? Why aren't those all year? And it was just kind of like, oh yeah, right? Like, how are we teaching, right? Are we culturally responsive? So she talked a lot about diversity, a lot about being culturally responsive, really talked a lot about things being individualized. When we talked about just, again, the question about the relationship between education, its interests, and its needs. She says, wow, that really just has to be individualized, right? Based on past education, past experiences, really talked about differentiating, building on things, which I thought was really great. Let's see, what else do I have written down? I think she really, again, she talked about being inclusive. She's got quite a bit of experience, and I think she could add a lot of value to this committee. Susanna, you want to add anything to that?
I think, you really covered most of it. I think the only thing that I have that I loved was she was saying how important it is for schools to be represented in the community. And I know that's just a huge thing, because if schools don't go out into the community and interact with people that don't have school-age children, they're not going to, I don't feel like other community members are going to feel like supportive of the school. So she was talking about that, and she said, just having a good, you basically did all. She also said she was a huge data geek, so.
Yeah, we thought Adam might like that. She is a self-proclaimed data geek.
But I think she just seems like she would be a really good fit, and I think we enjoyed talking to her, and she was nice. I liked her a lot.
Yeah, Becky?
I think the two of you have summed it up really well. I think she would be a tremendous asset. Very wide variety of experiences, like Kristen talked about. So I think there's a lot of different viewpoints that she's had exposure to that would bring an interesting voice to this group. That it was like complementary, but also brand new, which was kind of a really interesting mix and balance to find in a single candidate. So we were all very, very excited about her and think she would be great.
She was really passionate, but also very eager to learn, right? Like, she had actually, once somebody had told her about this committee, she actually got online and observed some of our meetings. I don't know which one, so I don't know if we were on our best behavior or not, but she did get on and observe our meetings, which I thought that was great, right? She really wanted to see what we were about, learn more about. One of the questions actually that we asked her, she wasn't quite sure how to answer, and she was very honest. It was fabulous. It was refreshing to see how genuine she was. But she said, well, I don't really know, and that's why I want to get involved, right? She said, I'm really eager to learn. I'm really eager to be a part of it. But at the same time, I feel like we would have a lot to gain from her experience. So I think it's kind of two-sided. She wants to learn from us, but at the same time, I think we would gain quite a bit from her. Any questions that anybody has about how it went, or anything more you want to learn about her?
which candidate was this again? And can we pop a resume up on the screen or something? Because I know we looked at a few last meeting or the meeting before.
Yeah, this was Jennifer Beauregard. She was the one that had all the educational administration experience. I don't have her. I'm not good with stopping this and bringing other things. I'm not the technology, but she was the only one.
Is it the one that was teaching like in Mexico or something like that? Okay.
Yes.
I mean, based on the credentials, and if you guys, had a good experience, interviewing her, I don't really have a problem moving forward. I'd like to get, I'd like to get to a place where we have a full committee and can move on with business.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like we've kind of stalled the past 2 or 3 meetings because we're waiting on additional people and where we want to go, and we've really got those recommended next areas of focus to discuss. And I would love to see a couple more people. I feel very strong about her. I mean, we used the rubric. She got top scores in every single area. I really feel very confident about her. Okay, so if we're ready to vote, I guess we need a motion. I'm going to make the motion. Oh, go ahead, Susanna.
I motion to, I don't even know, maybe you should do it. I motion to
recommend Jennifer Beauregard be appointed by the town board to.
Joanna, you getting this?
I recommend, there we go, I did it, it's done.
Okay.
Second the motion.
Joanna, I know sometimes we like half speak and you have to try to figure out what we're actually saying. Did you get it? Okay, thank you. Poor Joanna's over there like, guys, come on, really? All right, so we have a motion to recommend her as a voting member on the committee. Adam has seconded. All in favor? Excellent. Passes unanimous. Fantastic.
So that will also go to our town board at their next meeting. Kristen, I'll reach out to you and see if we need any kind of a write-up or anything like that from you, on behalf of this group, or if just like our application resume and, a couple sentences will suffice, then we can take care of it. But if we need anything more than that, I'll reach out to you and see if you can pull that together in time for the board meeting.
Perfect. And then if you don't need anything from me and they go ahead and vote on it, could you just let me know? Because that way I can email her and let her know. Okay, thank you. Okay, great. So moving right along. So so we voted on interviewing 3. We only heard back from the 1. So of course we have 2 more vacant spots. I did see it went out again on, I saw it on Facebook anyway. Has it gone out in other areas as well?
I don't want to speak without having confirmed that. So I know typically when they send things out, it hits all of our various areas. But I haven't specifically had that conversation with Maureen.
Okay. Do you know sort of what's the next step? Like is there like a cutoff date that people have to submit by, or as they come in, will you send those to us, or kind of how are we going to move forward with the last 2 positions?
Yeah, I'll check in with Lori. So I can't remember the cutoff date for this round. We do technically accept applications at any time, but the specific promotion of this opening, and I think we reposted for a couple of other committees as well. So it should be in time. It would definitely be in time to be able to bring something forward to the May meeting if we get any additional response. So I'll get with Lori, I'll make a note and get with Lori and just check and see if anything's come in. Typically she will hold them until the end of the date, and then just to only have to send them out once. But I'll check and see if any live ones or if we need to push it a little bit more.
Yeah. If you don't mind, if the deadline is after our May meeting, would you be willing to just bring like whatever is in by the May meeting, just so at least maybe we can move forward with those? Or or do we have to wait until the deadline to be fair for all applicants, I guess?
Typically, when we're doing like a call for applications, it's only like a 2 or 3 week window. So I don't think we're going to have issues with a conflicting date.
Okay, perfect. So I see the chat. Yeah, I don't know if we lost Adam or not. I'm not sure that we have too much more though that we need to vote on, because I'm going to suggest, if it's okay to the group, I don't know if we need to vote on it or not, but the recommended next areas of focus is all we have left to talk about. That is, in my opinion, a significant discussion. In May, we will have two more voting members. I really would feel more comfortable waiting until May to have that discussion. I would hate to try to make decisions on where this committee is going to move forward to, and then immediately bring 2 new members on board that weren't part of that discussion. So I know that we already have a list that we discussed back in February. So that's what I'm going to kind of use to guide us and lead us when we do have that discussion. But looking at the time for tonight and off the fact that I would feel more, oh, there's Adam. But I would feel more comfortable waiting until we have our 2 new members or our 2 new voting members, because I just feel like that is a very significant discussion, and I would love for everybody to be involved with that. I don't know if I need to make a motion on that or not. That's my motion, to wait until the next meeting.
Actually, do we have to motion that, or can we just do it?
I don't think so. You're really just pushing an agenda item to the next agenda. Like that same item is going to end up on the next agenda. So I think you're okay to just say we're going to skip it and then go to the next agenda item.
Now I will say that this will be like our second or third time pushing this to the next agenda or the next meeting. I don't want to push it anymore. I feel like we will have 2 new members in May. I don't feel like we need to wait until we have the other. I mean, if we keep waiting and waiting, it's going to be summer. But I would like to discuss it in May. And I think based on everything else that we accomplished today, I honestly don't know if there's too many other agenda items that we need for next month. I think that's kind of really it. So I would love to talk about it next month and have it literally be the agenda item so that we can kind of get through that. Because I really feel like without it, we just keep postponing what we're trying to get done, and we're all fairly passionate about what we are trying to get done. So looking at the time tonight, I'm just going to suggest that we wait till May due to time tonight, and because I want the 2 other voting members, but I definitely want to discuss it in May. How's everybody feeling?
I was just going to suggest that we share that preliminary list with Commissioner Mccool and Ms. Beauregard so that they can just see what we had kind of originally talked about. And then, Becky, I don't know like what the best way to let Jennifer and Commissioner Mccool kind of like catch up on previous stuff. Like, I'm happy, you know, I'd be happy to volunteer to like chat with them. I know that we can do it as long as it's not a quorum, right? Like 3 people could talk and it's not official, isn't it? I wouldn't want to say to them, like, read these 24 sets of minutes, but that's an option, or someone could just give them, you know, I feel like that might be a better use of time than like for all of us to sit on a meeting and like go over with Jennifer, like, here's how we chose these questions and this is the data set. So I don't know like what the best way to catch the 2 of them up on what we've done in the past would be.
I think either, you know, whether it's you, Joanna, as a committee volunteer, or, you know, Kristen as the chair, if she's got time, you know, I think just a one-on-one conversation, kind of filling in, like, what do these things on this list actually mean? You know, what was the intention behind that? I wouldn't think it would be more than a 30-minute conversation. So my suggestion would just be like just a one-on-one. You know, we can officially wait until the board takes action as far as Jennifer's concerned, just in case there's any, you know, slowdown in that process or something like that. But that I think would make sense as sort of a first order of business once she's officially appointed to make that connection and bring her up to speed that way.
That would be, I would appreciate that too. Just kind of that way I'm 100% knowledgeable on everything, so I know what I'm voting on and make sure I have the best information. So maybe we can schedule that for some time between now and then.
Sure. So Joanna, if you're okay with it, why don't we maybe do this? Why don't you and I connect, find some dates and times that work for the two of us, and then Commissioner Mccool, we can send those to you to see if any of those work with you, and we can plan to spend 30 minutes going over it with you, and then Becky, whenever Jennifer gets approved and on board, Joanna, we can then do the same thing with her. Does that sound
And
okay?
when is the next meeting? I'd love to kill two birds with one stone.
Would be the 26th.
So Jennifer will be confirmed or appointed.
Presumably. It'll be on the agenda.
Be recommended to be appointed. Can you say that again? I'm really sorry. April
26th.
May 6th. Okay, that doesn't make a lot.
April 26th. Sorry.
Okay. So that would leave us about 2 weeks. So Commissioner Mccool, I bet we could find time for all of us to do it between that. Would that be okay? And we could do the two together?
Sounds good with me.
Okay, that sounds like a plan. So Becky, I'll wait to hear from you as to whether you need me to write something up about her or whether or not she gets approved. And then Joanna, once I hear news, I'll reach out to you. And then Commissioner, we will reach out to you. A lot of reaching out. Okay, excellent. So I think I hear agreement that we are going to wait on that, which means, oh my gosh, 8 o'clock exactly. And I'm going to motion that we adjourn for the evening. All in favor?
I'll second it.
Oh, sorry, second. Thank you. Now all in favor. Thanks, Adam came back. All right, excellent. I think we did great tonight. We have a good, serious, good discussion next month. I appreciate everybody. Thanks for all showing up so that we had a quorum. That's fabulous. Jay's little boy had his birthday today and a Little League game. And so I said, yeah, sure, go definitely go do that instead. So thanks everybody else. Have a great evening and I'll see y'all in May.
It was great meeting everyone.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it.